the hottest new racing league on the block. Evolution League Racing taking our place. Taking place with our first race here today. Got a couple cars heading out the pit lane. Short qualifying here in Spa. 13 drivers for a first race. Is not too bad. Could definitely be worse. You will most likely get to know me over the next little while, as I will be pretty much covering every race that we have, at least for the foreseeable future, from the commentary box. But we will be getting our first driver starting their first lap of the league as a whole, as it's going to be Lewis coming around the final couple of corners to begin his first run. We also have on the circuit Spa-Francorchamps, who I'd be inclined to say is one of the favourites to win it all this season, although a lot of it is an unknown. I do know some of the drivers, I don't know all of them. But I'm sure we'll get to know everyone over the next few weeks. Let's just come into the pit lane, which is interesting. You did see him struggling a bit to get out of the pit lane, so might have hit the wall. Here comes Spa-Francorchamps around the final corner to begin the first ever lap completed, as he heads in towards that first corner of La Source. Back on the power again as he gets through the exit, as he goes blasting in towards Eau Rouge and Radion, the iconic uphill sweeping corners. He takes them with ease. DRS active as he heads down the Kemmel straight into turns 5, 6 and 7 of the first chicane of the circuit. There are quite a few of them around this Spa-Francorchamps circuit. It's one of the longest in Formula 1, as that's not the ideal way for a car to be facing. Coming around the last corner, I think. Surely you can't be starting the lap this way. It's going to try to start the lap, even though I think it may have already been invalidated. Spa-Francorchamps taking us flat out to the left, through pull-on of turn 10 and 11, in towards the chicane of 12 and 13. As he comes towards the end of this first run, keeping it just clean and within the white line so far, getting it stopped for turn number 14, round to the right of 15 as well, before he's just got the long blast in towards the final bus stop chicane. But he's got the flat out left to contend with before he gets there. Obviously, no challenge at all for a modern Formula 1 car. Gets it stopped for that final bus stop chicane. Rotated through the last corner and across the line he goes. It's a 1:41.8 as the first lap to ever be completed in ELR. Next car across the line, 44.6 for the Haas there. There's a few others, I think, just starting laps. The Williams, yeah, there are two cars just starting laps. Calavera's invalidated through the first corner and might have to get out of the way of the Ferrari behind. We also have coming across the line, that's Liam Bowalder, who's just going to be starting his first run. Mr. Business has backed off his, letting a couple of cars go through. And we have Jamie and Jeremy coming through the last two corners. Both of them have actually used up more than they're able to on their lap. 46.1 and a 45.7 on the inters for McJammy. Mr. Business obviously posted a time, but it's not a representative one, as he did back off the lap. They are indeed coming into the pit lane, as I suspected. We've got Clive around the final corner, is going to be starting his first run of qualifying, and coming into that final chicane as well. He's just going to be starting his first run. Did I say final run previously? I think I might have done. He's just going to be starting his first run. No more options. It's 3.5 tenths up on his personal best. He's a little way off that fastest time so far. But it's the small improvements are all you can do. Sometimes he's just going to get it stopped and rotated through the final chicane. And with DRS active, across the line he goes. And he actually doesn't improve, losing time in that final sector. Milan coming across the line sets a 1:45.3. Then it's the Williams of Calavera who did invalidate their run through turn number 1. Lewis is starting his first flying run of the session. Then we got Lynn Wilder coming in towards that final chicane. He's going to get it stopped, rotated, and back on the power again with the DRS. And across the line he goes. It's a 42.3 to go half a second off that P1 time. The RB of Jeremy just coming into the final corner and into the pit lane, I think followed in by Dan and McJammy. We've got Clive coming through the final chicane of the lap. DRS active as he comes across the line. It's P4 with 1:44.9. We still are yet to see competitive laps from drivers that definitely can contend at the front. Mr. Business has backed off again and is now going for his third run on this set of tyres, still without setting a single valid lap. I think Aaron might have backed off his run as well. Oh no, he's lost a bit of his front wing. I think Aaron's coming into the pit lane, which he is indeed. So I think it will be closer at the front once we see a few more lap times being set. There are drivers who definitely can improve that haven't done just yet. No more options heading into the pit lane. The Haas car not able to finish out the lap, I assume for fuel reasons. Milan's out of fuel as well, going to be limping back towards the pit lane. Liam Boalder also out of fuel. Lewis goes into P4 with 1:44.7, not far off that P3 time as well. Then we've got Mr. Business coming in towards that final sector of the circuit. Gets it stopped through turn number 14. Round 15, he's 16 seconds up on that personal best. Which that alone would see him up into P3, but you'd definitely expect that he's got more time in the reserves and could get himself towards the front of the field. He's going to get the car stopped for that final chicane, rotated through the last corner, or the last two corners. It's a slide on the exit of the final corner, but he's going to finish out the lap anyway. Oh no, he invalidated it. There's a 1:42.7, I think it was, which would have put him P3, but the slide did just invalidate that run. The Aston Martin here coming around the final corner as well. Calavera is just starting their second run of the session, hoping to improve upon what they've already set. And then both Mercedes are heading out onto the circuit, both on soft tyres for the first time. This is one of the few tracks where the soft tyres are actually usable in the race. So, the two Mercedes will be coming for the last corner. Lewis does indeed pit. And it's going to be Dan, the first car, to start that second run. We've got... Oh. Not the circuit there, mate. You're meant to stay on the grey bit, because that's the bit where the tyres can actually get a bit of grip. It's an improvement here. 18-0 from SJX. I'm going to need to ask them how to pronounce that one. As the season goes on. Coming in towards the final chicane. Does run out of ERS before they get there, which will hamper the acceleration out of this final corner quite significantly as they go across the line. So 146.8. Oh. What's Jeremy done there? He's facing the wrong way on the pit lane exit. And Dan getting it stopped through to number 12 into 13. And then the double right of 14 and 15 is coming up for the Mercedes. Obviously getting it stopped very nicely. 3.5 seconds up on his best so far. As you expect, he's going to find possibly another second or so into that final chicane, the final sector. He's going to get it stopped. He is most likely going to run out of ERS as he goes very, very wide into that final chicane. And this lap is not going to be nearly as good as it could have been. He still goes P3, but he's a 1.5 seconds off the top time at the moment and can most definitely go faster. As McJammy goes off as well from 3 seconds up, goes and finds a nice convenient spot in the barriers and starts coming back out again. Jeremy's going to come into that final sector. I don't think... Yeah, he's not improving at the moment and is indeed coming from pit lane. I know he wants to start from back. That's quite obvious. So he does find a nice spot in the barriers to park. Whereas AI is stuck and doesn't go back on the track either. And he will be starting from last place. Ian's gone into second place as all of that was going on. 0.3 off what Polytrump was able to manage in the McLaren. But the McLaren has Liam Wilder and the Williams right on his tail as they both go into that final sector. Polytrump 0.3 up. Liam Wilder closer to 4 as they both go through this final sector where the slipstream and the extra battery that Liam Wilder has is going to be so important. So they come blasting in towards that final sector. They've got Dan up ahead of them, who shouldn't be an issue at all. So round that last corner goes Polytrump with the DRS. Liam Wilder right behind him as well. Polytrump goes fastest, and Liam Wilder can only tuck in behind him. 0.4 apart is where they sit. No more options with a 43.7. Mr. Business just coming out of the pit lane, currently sitting in 12th place, having not set a competitive time just yet. With just over 4 minutes to go. This is the sort of point where the qualifying session starts to get really interesting. There's not long left now. This is when the laps really start to matter. Oh no! Coming through the final corner on what looked to be a very good lap. Calavera has almost spun it, kept it out the wall, but didn't improve upon their time in the end and stays down in 11th. So Pivoty Clive's just starting his, probably his last run. Might have the time for one more. He's a tiny bit down through that first sector though, so he's going to need to pick up the pace a bit if he wants to improve. And some of these drivers are going to need to pick up the pace a bit if they want to even get back to the pit lane to start another lap. So I'm not sure how long's left, but it can't be that much time anymore. And I don't think we're going to see because of drivers being out of fuel. Because there are 3 of them around the lap. Here comes Ian out of the pit lane. Which, yeah, 2 minutes 14 to go. I don't think Polytromp's going to get another lap in. And if Liam Wilder does, it will be tight. Because it's about now when you want to be heading out of the pit lane. As there's a V-carb at turn 1. It's Jeremy who's hit the wall and retired from qualifying. Losing his front wing as well. And Lewis is invalidated through that first sector as well, which is going to cost him what might be his final run if he doesn't have the fuel to go again. Clifty Clive did improve by 0.3 of a second, but he wasn't able to go ahead of his teammate. And he's going to start from 7th at the very best, unless he can manage to start another run. Calavera still hasn't been able to improve, and with 1 minute and 10 seconds to go, won't set another lap in the session. Polytromp's retired. He knows he's not getting another lap in. And Liam Wilder does too. Neither of them, the front 2, are not going to be setting any more laps. There's a 7/10 margin. No, a lot more than that. There's a half a second margin from Polytromp to Ian. And Dan sitting in P4, he can definitely do a lot more than what he's currently done. Here comes Ian through the final corner. He's going to use his DRS to start what will be his final run of the session. Mr. Business coming around as well. And really, there aren't that many drivers who are actually getting final runs in this session. Dan just coming around the final corner as well. Because Clifty Clives might make it, but Calavera definitely won't. So it's all down to what these drivers who have just started their laps can do. There's only the 3 of them who will be setting another run in the session. Ends a tiny bit up through that first sector. His teammate Mr. Business behind him is crossing that first sector split as well. He's down on his personal best. Obviously there's a lot of improvement that he can find in that middle sector, but as it stands, Mr. Business is starting down in 12th, as he's currently not improving upon his time. And going through Puon, turns 10 and 11, keeping it completely flat to the floor before heading down into the chicane of 12 and 13. So he gets it rotated through that final chicane, a bit far from the apex on the inside of 13, but that's not too big of an issue. It's getting too far onto that curb, completely just spins you out, ends 2/10 up on his personal best, would see him to the front row, but as things stand, no more than that. Mr. Business is now up on his time, obviously, as he had a very poor middle and last sector backing off his run. Dan's 4/10 up, but we know all of the time in that lap comes from the final chicane. Entering around the last corner, using the last of his battery, can go on to the front row as things stand. Mr. Business behind him, the 2 Red Bulls looking to get it 2nd and 3rd on the grid. Mr. Business can only manage 4th, but then down behind, half a second up on his personal best, coming into the final sector, where he just needs to keep it on the road. Across the line he goes, and I think it's only 4th for Mercedes. Indeed it is. It's Polydromp on pole, A in 2nd, Liam Wilder 3rd, Dan 4th with Mr. Business in 5th. Then there's a second margin down to Lewis, who admittedly, down to no more options, and then Lewis, who admittedly doesn't have a setup. Then it's Clive, Milan, SJX, Jeremy, Calavera, and McJammy, who's intentionally started from the back, but don't count him out during the race. The formation lap gets underway. No, it doesn't. Yeah, wait, okay. I wasn't sure if we were just gonna go, but we are meant to. Hey. Right. I think we're finally getting underway. Hopefully. Possibly. And there's no formation lap because of how long we had to take as a break there. But now we're going. And then we can finally see some racing action with no formation lap. It's 5 red lights just away. And then we can finally get racing. Oh no, there is formation lap. Thought it was said no formation lap. Well, that doesn't affect too much. Most drivers going with medium tyres, which is interesting. A few going with the soft. Why has a Haas gone straight on there? There's no more options. He's gone right the way off at turn 1. But Polytromp leads on the formation lap with Ayan in second place, Liam Bualda in third, Dan fourth, Mr. Business in fifth, no more options, was meant to be in sixth place, but he's all the way down there in the train. But then it's Lewis, then Clive, Milan, SJX, Jeremy's all the way in last, Calavera in 12th, and McJammy down in 13th, starting from the back, but don't count him out from the race. Here we go, though. Polytromp's just going to get himself parked up. Jeremy's all the way down at Stavalo. He's still got a long way to go to get to the grid. As the front drivers are parking up, they're going to be waiting for quite some time. Here we go, though. The Belgian Grand Prix is about to get underway. 22 laps at Spa. Here we go. To 5 red lights. For the Belgian Grand Prix, it's lights out. And away we go. And Polytromp does get a good start as he leads them into that first corner. Ain covers off the inside with Liam Bualda there. Trying to dive down the inside. It's Clive who gets tangled at that first corner. But he makes it through pretty much unscathed. Someone has lost a bit of their front wing there. I think that's McJammy who's got a bit of damage through the source starting from the back. And now his race is going to be a lot harder than it would have been otherwise. Polytromp leads. Ayan in second, quite a way back as he gets passed by Liam Bualda. Down into turn number 5. The Williams moving up into second. That's Dan going wide. I think both Mercedes cars might have a bit of damage. Dan's missing a bit of his end plate. So is his teammate McJammy. There's a yellow flag. That's Jeremy who's gone off at turn number 6. Dan going wide as he's with that front wing damage, trying to keep the car on the road, but it's a struggle to do so. As now Lewis has almost been dropped from the DRS of A up in front of him. Mr. Business behind in the second Red Bull is going to want to catch back up ahead of the Kicksauber if he wants to stay with his teammate. But for now, it looks like the front train are going to pull away on the first lap here. And Jamie dodges up to 10th place on the diffuser of Clifty Clive, despite the damage that he picked up at that first corner. But Polytrump leads with a 9-second advantage over 9/10 advantage over Liam Wilder. And it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. It's just gone beyond a second. It's going to be close whether the Williams will be able to stay in the DRS of the McLaren. He's obviously going to try to use every trick in the book to get that DRS and get that broken by the time they get to this detection point at the bottom of the hill. And I think Polytrump is going to pull away as he's outside the DRS margin already. Liam Wilder and Aon are going to have to work together if they want to catch up. Oh, there's a yellow flag. That's Dan who's gone off at turn number, in between turns 1 and 2. And brought out the virtual safety car. He's lost a bit of his front wing. Has the Mercedes. He's facing the wrong way and drops to the back of the field. A virtual safety car on lap 1 keeps Polytrump's advantage. On lap 2 keeps Polytrump's advantage and just neutralises the race. But it's one opportunity where things can go very wrong if you mess it up on the VSE restart. And like I said there, Lewis has spent under the VSE, picked up a drive-through penalty, and things can indeed go very wrong on a VSE restart. There's a yellow flag again as McJamie goes past Milan up into 7th place. Here's the Mercedes as he's just going to keep his way working slowly through the field despite the damage. Put in a strong display so far. Liam Wilder and Aon have kept the gap roughly the same to Polytrump as what it was before. It's Milan tumbling down the field and going off just about, staying out of the barriers. But in 11th place, it could well be race over pretty much as soon as it's gotten underway for the Ferrari driver. There comes Lewis into the pit lane. He's going to be in a deep trouble as well, falling to the back of the field on the soft tyres, having picked up that drive-through penalty for speeding under the VSC. And it's going to come out down in 11th place at the back of the field. And the worst part is that that doesn't even count as one of his mandatory pit stops to complete throughout the race. And goes past Liam Wilder in the hope of catching back up to Polytrump with the DRS. He's just about outside of it, but if they keep doing that for long enough, the hope is that they will catch up within a couple of laps. There's a yellow flag again. This time it's Milan who's gone off. And I think he's kept it out of the wall again. Still doesn't have any damage. Dan comes into the pit lane for a set of the hard tyres, which I would say is an interesting decision, but I don't think he had any choice. As he started on the mediums and got damage on lap 1. And look at this. And now, within the 1 second margin of Polytrump. It's going to be close, though, as they get to the detection point. The McLaren just about has enough in the straight line to keep himself beyond that 1 second margin. But you'd imagine it's not going to be long until that DRS margin is breached. And Aon will be back in the fight for the race lead, along with Liam Wilder, who's just behind him. As they go to the detection point, it's still a tiny bit too far for now. But Liam Wilder will have the DRS. And surely he's too far back to take that place. But Ayan seems to be very rapid on the straights through the corners here, so can hopefully get himself back into that DRS over the course of the middle sector. McJammy, he worked his way up now into that 5th place, and within the 1 second of Mr. Business, despite the wing damage that he has, he's just carving his way through the field, and may well still be in the hunt at the front, despite having that little bit of damage. So big margin to gain with that 6.1 seconds from Mr. Business to Liam Wilder. But if he can just get into a rhythm and just slowly take down that gap, maybe he does stand a chance of still fighting for the victory here. But then everyone being in a DRS train would be a disadvantage for him, as it just gives them more straight line speed and allows them to pull away for longer. But who knows? What we do know is that Ayan is within that 1 second of Polytron as they go round the final bus stop chicane. And with the DRS, close back in again and await the move into, or not await a move just yet, but hopefully stretch out that advantage. Not stretch out, close in that advantage and move back up into the fight for the race win. As with the DRS, Polytron's main advantage being straight line speed is pretty much nullified, as he is still pulling away despite N having the DRS, but he's not pulling away by nearly as much as he was before, and ends quicker in the corners. There goes McJammy, past Mr. Business and up into 4th place. And now the question is whether he can close that 6.6 second advantage and end up in the fight for the podium. And Dan at the back isn't going to be able to do too much. A 45.8 on that last lap. So there's a yellow flag. That, I believe, might be the Ferrari going slowly off my line. It could have been Lewis in the Kick Sauber. I'm not entirely sure who it was, but one of them went off, brought out the yellow flags, but luckily didn't cause any safety cars just yet in the Grand Prix, with just under 5 laps gone. Getting close to the quarter of the race, and McJammy, with the front wing damage, isn't able to do much at all. He's just sitting, stuck with Mr. Business, losing time to the leaders. Just really, really being costed by not having that DRS and by having that front wing damage. And I think it is a race where those front 3 will remain untouchable for the entire thing. There's a chance that the Mercedes can close back up if he gets an undercut in the pit stops, but I think otherwise it's just going to be these front 3 remaining untouched at the front. Ayan has pulled up the DRS of Liam Wilder, who's now sitting 1.4 seconds behind. So that's a very interesting development. Ayan now looking to be in the fight for the race lead, and Liam Wilder is falling out of it. So will Liam just slowly drift his way back towards that sort of 4th and 5th train? Jeremy's gone into the wall at turn 1. Doesn't bring out a safety car, as it's just a bit of damage. But it's not the ideal situation for him to be in. Obviously, all the drivers at the front want to go as long as possible without any safety car. But can Mr. Business now close back up to Liam Wilder? As he doesn't, as the Williams no longer has DRS, the Red Bull and the Mercedes in this train do off one another, but I don't think it's going to be enough for them to close up, as they're still losing out over this last lap. Ooh, where's Jeremy gone? He's gone skating off the road. With that damage, he's surely going to have to come into the pit lane from 13. Going to the end from here is going to be difficult. McJammy does quite comfortably move past Mr. Business into turn number 5. And just using that DRS, and there's not a lot that he can do about it. And Liam Bawada's just drifting back from these leaders, but there's no one that's really near enough to capitalise on it. And I'm sure McJammy would if it wasn't for that bit of front wing damage. But then, you could throw as many ifs and buts as you want. He does have damage, and he's not closing up. Through the last corner. There you go again, on to lap number 8 of 22. And I think, unless we see a safety car, I think this race may be settled pretty much already. At least with the top 5. There goes no more options into the pit lane from 7th place, doing 7 laps on those soft tyres before putting on a set of the mediums to take him to the end. And when will Mr. Business come into the pit lane? And will he be able to do anything on the undercut? I don't think so. I think pretty much, unless we get a safety car, that not much is going to change in the field. With the help of a safety car, Dan could get himself back up into the fight, but without one, I don't think there's much he can do. As into the pit lane comes both McJammy and Mr. Business, which is interesting. So the Mercedes coming in off the medium compound tyre, going for a change of front wing and putting on a set for the hards, which he thinks is better than staying out on those mediums. Which is very, very interesting. So that shows just how bad his tyre, that situation was, that he thinks the hard tyres will be a better option for him. And he's lost the 7 seconds or so from changing his front wing, but he also will think he can gain that back from having that extra pace across the lap. But now it's almost a pit stop window for these leaders who can just pit whenever they want, most likely onto a set of softs, just to take them to the end of the Grand Prix. And in comes Polytron from the lead of the Grand Prix on lap number 9. He's going for a set of hards to the end, which is an interesting call, because normally I'd think it's a soft medium, or a medium soft at this circuit. But Polytron goes on to a set of hards to take him to the end. Oh, there's a virtual safety car on the circuit. That's Dan, who's had an off into the gravel. And Milan as well, who's gone off at the pit lane entry. Coming into the pit lane. Calavera's sped under the VSE. Dan's now going backwards. Will the VSE be out long enough for these leaders to pit? I don't think it will, most likely. Calavera's just overtaken Jamie Dodds. Look, Jamie, it's the same car, a VSE restart, and 2 drivers are sped. Calavera is trying to get out of the way of McDammy, who I think he overtook illegally on that restart. But we go green again, as Dan now retires from the session in the pit lane. Will not bring out any lasting consequences. And coming into the pits on lap 10, from the lead which he inherited from Polytron in the McLaren. That McLaren who will most likely retake the lead. As he comes around the final corner, Liam Boulder now leads on the road, but it's a battle of who comes ahead as they head out the pits. It's most likely going to be Polytron, but it's close. Ends right there with the McLaren. Polytron is still in the lead of the Grand Prix, but look how close Ayan is to the back of the McLaren, who we do know is quick on the straights, and I don't think Ayan is going to be able to actually get ahead, but it was close. They almost ended up, I mean, yeah, 7th in the end. It looked closer at first. So now, a 3-second time penalty for Jeremy down in 12th. Might be getting close to being lapped as well. It's not been the greatest of days at the office. Liam Boulder is into the pit lane from the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix. Comes out, it's desync in the pit lane. He's onto a set of hards, which is interesting with how long we've gone in the race. McDammy does set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as he starts closing his way back up to this group in front of him. Mr. Business now on the back of Liam Boulder as they go up the hill of Radion. And the Red Bull is going to move past the Williams into turn 5. But can Jamie close up that sort of 6-second margin to Mr. Business in the next 10 laps? It's definitely possible, but it will require quite a lot. it would require a big difference in pace, as well as not losing out too much from not having DRS. And he's got the gap down, but it's only going to increase again as they get to the straights into the first, just through the first sector. So that's the problem that the Mercedes is facing. No matter how much he gains, is not enough because everyone else just has DRS. And quite close to losing said DRS, but he's going to keep within that 1 second for now. Through the middle sector, or through the first sector, but realistically there's no risk to Polytron of losing the lead, as the Red Bull just isn't going to pose much of a threat on the straights, because of the straight line speed difference that they have. No more options coming into the pit lane from 6th place, falls down to 7th, and to serve his drive-through that he got for speeding on the VSC restart. And he's going to come out down in 8th. Couple of other drivers coming into the pit lane at the same time. Calavera is also serving the drive-through for speeding in the pit lane. McJammy's definitely closed that gap down, but probably not by enough, because he's now within 8 tenths of the cars in front of him. I didn't see it, I just saw the consequences of it. I just saw that, the car had damage. And Jeremy's now gone a lap down, being lapped by the 2 leaders out front. And McJammy is getting a lot closer to Mr. Business and Liam Wilder, but I don't think it's enough, as he's now only 4.8 seconds behind. And maybe it will be enough, as he's gained about 1 second and 2 laps, which is about what he needs if he wants to just catch up. But then but then it's just whether he can pass him as well. But hit it. That's not great. Ireland gets another 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, but it's probably not going to make a difference in the grand scheme of things. Calavera's come into the pit lane to change their front wing. No, it isn't ahead of Milan, it's just a bit of desync in the lobby. There's a yellow flag as they... Oh, that's just Jeremy getting out of the way of the cars coming up to lap him. And we're not going to be seeing a safety car at this stage of the race. With 8 laps to go, that would have made quite a significant shift in the dynamic of the Grand Prix, but they're all going to make it through just fine. And now we're just getting closer and closer to that end of the race. McJammy's still not really closing in by enough to be at all safe at the end. And it's all Mr. Business has lost the DRS to Liam Wilder in front of him. And that is exactly what McJammy needs if he wants to get back into that DRS. Because now they can no longer DRS swap down the straights. And now there's a big opportunity for the Mercedes. And I wasn't really aware that this track has swapped to being a medium hard track, but evidently it has. In one of the patches on the game. But now I think Jamie can most definitely take that third place, as he's got the opportunity of the car separated. He can leapfrog one, then the other, and doesn't have to worry about them DRS swapping anymore. Jeremy's gone off again and brought out a virtual safety car with 7 laps to go for these lead drivers. I just noticed as well, Ayrton's taking the lead of the Grand Prix. And could they get away with a pit stop? They might be able to, but there's no reason why they would. It doesn't make sense to make a pit stop. For the drivers that use a bit more of their battery, so Ayrton in the lead now has a chance to gain it back, having used just a bit more than everyone else around him. We go racing again, and still leads. Polytromp still in second, although he has forgotten to turn his DRS back on. He now does remember. None of the other gaps really changed all that much. Oh, Jeremy has disconnected. I can't re-invite him. He might have just rage quit, in fairness. But I think McJammy is going to be getting close to that 1 second margin by the time they get to this point on the next lap. This is now only 1.7, and the gap from Mr. Business to Liam Wilder is also only 1.7. Coming around the left-hander, turn number 9. It's just these two, still right there with one another. Polytron most likely will just be saving his battery for the end, because he's so much faster in a straight line. Just with the DRS, it shouldn't be a challenge of who is ahead as they come into the chicane of turns 5, 6, and 7. And Clifford Clive is just doing a good job just to keep the car in P6, albeit 21 seconds behind the car in front of him. But he's just keeping his head down, setting lap time after lap time, and not letting the gap get to him. Here comes McJammy, and he is within 1 second of Mr. Business. He's regained that gap that he lost when he's changed his front wing. And now he can really stretch his legs and start aiming for that podium. I highly doubt he's going to be able to take a victory here, Although maybe if they start tripping over each other with DRS games, then he'll have a chance. There goes Bodytron past Ayan. And the issue for Ayan now is that he's so much lower on the straights, he might not have an option anymore. They are both incredibly slow right now, and they are losing a lot of time to Liam Wilder. So maybe there is a chance that Jammy Dodge can come through, and I mean, if he'll get past Liam Wilder, and if Polyjump and Aang keep tripping each other up down the straights as they currently are, I can see a way in which Jammy Dodge somehow, or McJammy, somehow manages to close that gap and win this race. Is a possibility. Mr. Business, though, now gets a 3-second time penalty, as he's not going to be fighting the Mercedes for track position anymore. I don't know whether he'll be fighting him anyway, but there's no reason to fight him. Jammy Dodge takes the first lap of the race as he is within the 1 second of Liam Wilder. He might just get a bit of DRS from his teammate. He's too far back for that. Here comes McJammy with the DRS and back into the fight for the podium. He will move up into the podium places as he goes past Liam Wilder. The Williams try to cover off to the right hand side. Jammy Dodge goes sweeping around the outside and moves up into the podium place from the back of the grid, picking up damage at turn 1. Yet he still made it back to P3 in a very strong recovery drive. And now he can try and set his sights to P2, but there's realistically no way that he gets it. He's still going to have Liam Wilder to contend with as they reach the DRS zones, so his job isn't done yet. And I think, at least for now, the Williams will get back past as they go down the Kemmel Straight and into the Lacombe Chicane. He's in the DRS, and he's going to be right up behind the Mercedes as they reach the Dom of Radion. But he's 6 tenths behind, which might prove to be too much for the Williams to overcome in one straight. And indeed it is. McJammy will hold on, and I think now he can stretch his legs and really try to open up that 1 second margin. But even if he does so, it probably won't matter. Like, all that matters is that he's ahead by the time they cross the checkered flag, like cross the finish line and see the checkered flag, because he's not going to catch up to the front two. So all that matters really is just staying ahead of Liam Wilder. Here they go. Oh, Limwalder gets a 3-second time penalty. And that is his race done. He's not going to have a chance of that podium anymore, but he might want it on the track just for his dignity. But now we turn our sights to the front of the field, where surely Aon's too far back to be able to do anything. There goes Limwalder. Oh, McJammy moves up into 3rd place, but surely Aon won't be able to do anything against Trump here on the final lap. Especially because the McLaren is faster in the straights, and they're still similar levels of pace, even when there's a DRS difference. So Limwalder is in 3rd on the road, but it's not going to matter. And I think McJammy's going to take the place on the road anyway. Just out of, safety concerns. It's safer to take it on the road than to hope that they don't get a penalty removed or anything like that. Calavera has retired from the session, crashing out on the exit of turn 13, but down in 11th. A lap down is not going to matter. But here we go, on to the final lap. What can Aon do? Right up behind Trump. There's a yellow flag through turn 1. That's not going to help the battle for the race lead, as that's the Ferrari of Milan who's gone off and facing the wrong way. Here they go, down through Eau Rouge, up Raidillon on the final lap with the DRS, I think. And just going to be too far behind to even do anything. He's going to try, though. They're going to go wheel to wheel into the final chicane. Aon's picked up a 10-second time penalty for ignoring the yellow flags as he goes round the outside of turn 5 into 6. Through 7, there's still wheel to wheel. Trump has to concede. The Red Bull does have that 10-second time penalty, but he might not be pleased about it. He might be trying to remove it. He gets a slide on the exit of 8 into 9, but he holds on to the position for now. But Trump has a lot more battery at his disposal, having saved a bit in behind the Red Bull. And so it's going to come down to the final couple of straights where I think Trump might be able to get him back with the extra ERS, with the faster straight line speed. Here he comes. It's dumping the battery all the way to the final corner. Here he goes with the slipstream. Pulls to the outside. Trump Aon tries to cover the inside, but the McLaren sweeps round the outside in towards the final chicane. Aon lunges one round the outside. There's contact the final corner as they go wheel to wheel across the line. Aon spins at the last corner. As it's Trump who's gonna win the Belgian Grand Prix. As it's McJammy who comes home 2nd. And Limwalder across the line 3rd. Aon comes home in 4th, but he's going to be dropped down from that penalty. And then Cleverty Clive will come home 6th. Lewis in 7th. No more options in 8th. And SAX coming home in 9th. Milan already finishing in 10th, a lap down. Just waiting for SEX to come across the line with a bit of front wing damage. Comes across the line in 9th. Games Drive for the day goes to McJammy, and I am definitely inclined to agree. As he comes home in second place from the back of the grid and picking up damage on lap 1. We thank you for watching that stream. Bolly Trump wins. McJammy second, Limbolder third. I know it wasn't ideal, but we'll try to improve over the next season or so. And hopefully, we'll see you again. Hopefully it'll be a bit closer, a bit better over the next little while. But we appreciate those who have I can't even speak. Appreciate those who have bed with us. And we hope to see you again soon.